when they're coming back, when they first go to do something, I always tell them to only compare to what you did yesterday, not pre-injury.
Welcome to Sports Mom Rapport, where we support and connect with moms of athletes while sharing helpful advice from each other and some guest experts along the way. This is Tara.
And I'm Destiny. Thank you for joining us as we highlight you incredible moms.
Hey, Destiny. Today we will be speaking with Jarol Baumann. Jarol and I met each other through our daughters being together on the Florida gymnastics team over these past 5 years.
I'm looking forward to meeting Jarol. If I remember correctly, she's also in sports medicine.
Yes, she is a physical therapist, and I'm sure she'll have some great advice to share with us.
It'll be interesting to ask her about rehab and injury prevention, as well as any wisdom that she's gained from her own daughter's athletic journeys.
For sure. Let's begin. Welcome, Jarol. We are so honored to have you here with us today. Will you start off by briefly introducing us to your family and their athletic and non-athletic interests?
Okay, great. My name's Jarol Baumann. I have two daughters, one Alyssa Baumann and Rachel Baumann. They have been gymnasts. Alyssa was a multiple-time U.S. national team member, world's gold medalist, then went on to the University of Florida and did gymnastics there. Rachel Baumann was JO national champion, went on to University of Georgia, graduated from there, and then is now transferred to the University of Florida gymnastics. I don't know that they have much room for non-athletic interest, but Alyssa has always been big into running and working out, even on top of all of her athletics. And Rachel has always been very interested in computer coding and anything involving computers. So one liked to get out and run and do stuff, and the other one just wanted to sit down at her computer the whole time. So they're very different. And then I have a third daughter, and she did sports at a different level. She does high school sports, and she did all the sports. She does track, soccer, volleyball, cheerleading. She's in track season right now. She's a high school senior, and she's looking at picking her college for next year, which is between University of Florida, Georgia, or possibly Texas A&M University. So I think I've had it from the world's level of athletics to high school level athletics and kind of everything in between.
Yeah, you're a terrific sports mom resource for sure.
All the levels.
Yes. And how's about you and your husband, Greg?
We both graduated from Texas A&M University, and my degree is in undergraduate biomedical science, and then went on to get my physical therapy degree. And I have an outpatient orthopedic clinic, rehab clinic that specializes in sports medicine. And Greg does finance. He sits at a computer. I tell him that he doesn't really work. He talks all day long. So I'm not so sure that that's actually work. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like just like your daughters are all unique and different in their individual interests, so too are you and your husband. So
absolutely
makes a good combo, good pair.
It does.
So you have an interesting angle, Jarol, with not only being a mom to incredible athletes from all levels, but you also, like you mentioned, are a physical therapist. What sparked your interest in physical therapy and rehab?
Well, actually, I went to Texas A&M for veterinary school. My degree was biomedical science under the College of Veterinary Medicine, and I graduated in that. And then I decided, I don't really want to do that. So it took me a year after college to decide to go back and do physical therapy. And when I first started out in physical therapy, I actually did head injury and spinal cord injury. So as far from sports medicine as you can possibly imagine. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then I slowly started edging into orthopedics and sports medicine. And by the time my girls were younger is when I first started seeing gymnasts, and just having the information as far as understanding the sport. It is a game changer as a healthcare provider. You can help them decide how to re-enter back into the sport better.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Yes, you definitely have a huge expertise, hands-on with your own daughters and in all your education. Changing gears a bit, for moms of athletes, we often hear complaints of new or nagging aches and pains. And I'm sure it's different with each situation, but do you have a general rule of thumb on when you should seek medical attention or PT advice?
Sure. And that may depend on the age of the athlete, et cetera. But I will back up a little bit and tell you that I feel like the rehab process is changed a lot in the past 10 years, even. I would say the majority of my athletes come in on a weekly basis for a sports performance / recovery program. And this is something we probably didn't see 10 years ago. And what that looks like is they come in, they get evaluated for any deficiencies that they might have particular to their sport, as well as do you have a high percentage chance of having ACL tear, this, that, and the other. So we look at all that, we train them for that. And then we also add an aspect of recovery. So you see more nowadays athletes coming in weekly for recovery type processes than we saw 10 years ago. And then lastly, they come in with any of their aches and pains. So they'll come in for this hour and a half treatment per week. Let's say they landed short that day and their ankles hurt. They'll tell me that, and I'll go ahead and look at it and address it. So I see more athletes nowadays seeking care earlier or maintenance type care than ever before. But getting specifically to that question, if it's a younger athlete and they have pain that's not going away, even with any kind of modifications in their practice for over 7 days, then I usually tell them to go ahead and get it checked out.
It's great to hear that you're building relationships with them so that they know they're coming in and taking care of issues before they become a real problem.
And a huge percentage of my kids and or their parents will even text me, this is hurting, what should we do? And I can ask them quick questions and assess whether they need to come in or not. And it's not just me, it's the whole community, healthcare community providing these services, or at least in my area, I see a lot of it.
I really love that idea of the maintenance of recovery. So once you've recovered, then you're not just, hey, I'm recovered, I'm moving on. It's, I've recovered from this, but I'm maintaining my body so that I can continue to perform at said level.
With them coming in each week, they can ask me any questions, and you just see more athletes doing massage, Normatec, recovery type procedures, addressing deficits outside of the gym, doing some very targeted strength training or flexibility, which has been a huge problem that I've seen in general.
Well, and I imagine with people doing their sport more intensely, as this generation does, it's necessary for athletes to have what your office provides. And I think that's great. What would you say by way of compliance? So when they're not being seen by you and you send them home with some stretches or exercises, how important is the compliance aspect from the patient? And then also, how could moms of athletes support their son or daughter at home with the exercises that you've given?
Well, it's a good point. Nowadays, most of the home exercise programs are in an app and they're videos. And most of my videos I've done specifically. So I've had gymnasts demonstrate them here in my clinic. And some of the exercises, if it's for gymnastics, will be on the beam that they can do. I'll show it very, very specific. And for example, with a gymnast, they do so many hours. When I give them a home exercise program to do, I ask them to do it at the gym. They're usually injured and they're usually doing less activity at gym. And I don't want them sitting in some back gym away from the team, away from the whole mental aspect of gymnastics. I want them doing something, even if it's a physical therapy program. On top of that, I don't want most of my kids doing exercises at home. I find more kids burn out early on in the sport if you make them do 20 hours of gymnastics a week and then come home and do extra stuff at home. It's too much. So I try to have the kids do it at their gym, at their sport. So let's say they're not a gymnast and they're a high school baseball player. Then I ask them to go during their athletics period at high school and go in with the trainer and do their home program. Again, not at home. I find the kids start to almost hate their sport if they're over rehabbed, or the parents make them do too many private lessons, too many this, that, and the other. So I really try to fit it in within their sport. Now, once they've come back and they're doing full gymnastics, and let's say I still need a few exercises done, I pare it down to the smallest amount possible, maybe 6. And I tell them to do 1 or 2 a day before or after gym every day, and then rotate through those 6 during the week. And that way they're still not doing anything at home. And it takes 5 minutes maybe before and after gym. On my app, I can see if they got into the app. So I kind of know if they're doing it or not.
That's incredible. It's special to hear how you have basically said, you know what, compliance probably was an issue. So I'm going to take that variable out and incorporate it into their schedules and allow them to maximize their time when they're still at practice, but maybe can't do everything. And then also meet them where they are mentally, emotionally, being that they're injured and maybe can't do everything. So I like that strategy.
I try to take it out of the parents' hand too, because I don't want the parents having to nag them about their sport. That's burnout. So I try to take that on myself instead of them.
So true, Jarol. That's brilliant. I love that. They've taken care of it at their practice. They come home, they want to eat, they want to fuel up and rest and get their work done. They don't want to be talking about any of that. So I love the app idea. You can see if they've gone and done their stuff, and you've minimized it to that small amount. That's terrific. And just like you said, when they have an injury or they need to do some sort of recovery exercises, doing them at the gym or at the fields or wherever, it's perfect. Just maximizing their time.
I feel like they're participating more, like they're doing something actively to get back. Everyone else is working out and they're working out too.
I'm feeling a little bit of guilt, Jarol.
Why?
I think I've been nagging. I have a daughter who had a hip labrum repair. I'm guilty. I've been like, hey, did you get your exercises done? And she's like, Mom, I did it at the gym. And then I have another one that's dealing with shin splints, my middle daughter who runs track. And like, did you do your stretches? Did you make sure this? And she's rolling the eyes. And so shame on me, but I've been guilty.
Usually my parents just tell me. And then I'm the nagging person.
Yeah. I need you. Can you just come to Indiana, please?
Because as parents, we already have a lot of things to nag about. You might as well let the professional do the nagging. The parents will text me and tell me, James hasn't been doing his exercises. And I was like, got it.
Yep, I'm on it. I need you. If nothing else, just text my daughter for me and we're good.
There you go.
You mentioned that you noticed a big increase in patients coming in for more preventative treatment and recovery throughout the entire field. Do you see patients coming in even before they have a problem just to correct tendencies that they might have that may possibly lead to injury to get a basic assessment?
Yeah, I would say 30 to 45% of my current practice is that.
Wow.
So that's a lot. And they're just wanting to do sports performance recovery. They don't even know if or what problems there are. I kind of evaluate them. In the field of gymnastics, the biggest problem I'm seeing now is the lack of flexibility that used to be just huge 10, 15 years ago. Flexibility is not quite as important, and that's leading to a lot of injuries. So I'm dealing with that the most right now.
That's interesting.
It's kind of a combination of multiple factors, but it's leaving these athletes very susceptible to injuries.
Yeah. I'm curious, Jarol, how you manage your professional career and the demands that come along with that, with the schedules of your girls, being able to support them and attend their events and travel for their competitions. How do you find that balance?
I don't know that I do. So I don't know that I'm the greatest at this at all. I'm a very last minute person, just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. So I don't get flustered very easily. I don't have any kind of secret other than my patients are very understanding because they're gymnasts. When I have to run out of the clinic to make a flight in the middle of clinic, they're all like, tell Rachel good luck. It would be different, I think, if I did something else that was super demanding, or if I wasn't with other parents that are all like, oh, I hope she does great. Good luck at SECs, you know? So I think it's kind of easier for me with my business. They're understanding, so that helps me. I'm a good physical therapist. I'm a good gym mom, but I don't know that I'm the greatest organizer of time management possible.
I think we moms give ourselves too hard of a time on that. I think we do better than we realize.
I've never missed a gymnastics meet, so
Yeah, you make it work.
You do pretty awesome, Jarol. I love that the community of patients that you work with, they understand. They're supportive of you and your family and your daughters. So a lot of athletes set goals and high achieving dreams, such as qualifying to the Olympics or playing professionally after college. Sometimes those come to fruition, sometimes not. What advice do you have in helping your child handle setbacks?
So that's a hard one, especially, when you're talking about most of the time, this is related to injuries. Handling injuries which alter the trajectory of an athlete's goals is probably one of the hardest things to deal with. I've seen it from my professional career, but the hardest time I've ever had was personally with Alyssa dislocating her elbow 4 days before the Olympic trials. Knowing that she had been fitted for the Olympic Leos, we had registered for the Olympics. You've spent 36 hours a week training every week since fourth grade to get there. Then 4 days before you're going to have that kind of injury. And then turn around and have someone tell you, not only are you not going to the Olympics, but your elite career's over. And I'm not so sure if you can do gymnastics again. That's hard to deal with. And I'm going to tell you that at first, we just focused on the surgeries and the medical care that had to happen. We didn't talk about it at first. If you try to think that you can help them by something that you say, I don't think you can. I think you need to give them that time to grieve and figure it out for themselves. So we focused on that. And then when she started rehab, we celebrated all the small victories in rehab. You increased your range of motion 10 degrees, and we just celebrated. The other thing that Alyssa did that I didn't even bring up, but she did that helped her, was she decided she was going to document the whole process. So Rachel took videos of the entire process. In 2016, Alyssa had 2 surgeries and she did a year of rehab. She had to defer entry into the University of Florida because of all her rehab. So she didn't even get to go to college that year with her friends. And Rachel took videos, and at the end of the year, she put out a YouTube video saying Alyssa's comeback. Alyssa wanted to do that because she was just sure she would come back. And she wanted to show other kids that you can. After she put that out, so many kids contacted her saying, I had this injury and this helped me so much. But I'm going to tell you that it probably helped Alyssa more than it helped anybody else, because she took the time to focus on someone or something other than her own tragedy. And it helped Rachel because Rachel was grieving just as much as Alyssa. And Rachel would pull out her phone and video her the first day she ever did a handstand. And so all of that helped. I would say, let them have time to grieve. Don't try to fix it at first. Let them decide their own goals. Then the other thing is, this is very hard. As a parent, you have to reevaluate your goals for them. You cannot hold on to those previous goals. I think she figured it out and decided to move on before I could. I'm like, wait, we're not going to the Olympics? What? And she was already, let's make a video about this. So as parents, I think we have to do that too. The whole process for her was forever. I think she had decided that she was going to come back and do all 4 events in gymnastics again. And, when she got to Florida, she did beam and floor. And slowly after a year, she started training the other events. Then in 2021, because of a COVID issue, she got to do all around. She swung bars. It was 1,699 days since her last competitive bar routine. Almost 1,700 days it took her to come back to that. She won bars, she won the all-around, and it may not have been the Olympics, but it felt like it to our family. We don't have the story where she went on and was the all-around champion forevermore for University of Florida. No, she went back to being a beam and floor specialist, but she has that. She has it. She never gave up, and she got to do that. So I think reevaluating your goals and holding on to them, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. And then I'll add this one thing. You're sorry you asked this question, aren't you?
No, I'm not. This is heartfelt. This is a wonderful answer.
I know. I have tears in my eyes.
The other thing I'd say from a PT standpoint that I always do with my kids that have setbacks or injuries, like catastrophic injuries like this one, when they're coming back, when they first go to do something, I always tell them to only compare to what you did yesterday, not pre-injury. It changes their mindset. You have to remind them a few times, but then they're kids and they can think like this better than adults. So let me give you an example. I'm kind of feeding a little bit of Alyssa's. Let's say you have an elbow injury, a surgery, you're out 3 months, you're a gymnast, and you get to hang from the bars, and then you get to do this little kip skill on bars. If that kid is like, oh my gosh, I did a kip, I haven't been able to do anything in 3 months, that's one mindset. And the other mindset is, I used to do shaposh half and release moves, and I can only do a kip now. And that's a different mindset. And this you can help as a parent if you remind them, oh my gosh, you haven't touched a bar in 3 months and you finally did a kip. If you have that mindset for them instead of what they used to do, then that's a game changer, making their new goals and getting back into the sport in whatever capacity it's going to be and being happy about it, just enjoying it.
All beautiful advice. I love it. You're not comparing yourself to what you used to do. You're comparing yourself to yesterday and how far you're coming.
Yeah. Could I do this yesterday? No. Then this is amazing. I remember the first time Melissa did a kip cast, it wasn't even to handstand, but she got off and she clapped and they were cheering. And we went and got ice cream that night, I think. I mean, we were just so excited.
Celebrate the small wins.
Yeah.
And I love how your daughter was able to write her own story, rewrite her own goals. I mean, you're there for support and being there to encourage, but she needed to take it into her own hands. And your daughter is making that video. What a therapeutic.
It was. It really was. I just recently had another elite with an injury, and I suggested the same thing to her. Document all of it. Some kids like to write it down. Some want to video it. But document all of it. And at some point, you'll go back and look at whether it's journaling or videoing, and you'll go back and look at this and be like, wow, I can't even believe I went through all this. I can't even believe I did all this.
I can so relate to everything you shared. I literally had a tear in my eye when you were talking about that. Like how you said the parents need to have time to regroup and refocus. As moms, we feel what our children feel. We see their victories and we want them to succeed, and we see how much work that they put into their sport. And when that shifts and changes, we feel what they feel. I just love how you said we have to give ourselves time as well. And like I said, I have one that's injured right now, and she's doing all the rehab and all the recovery. And she said to me the other day, I can't even do X, this skill that she used to be able to do. And she was down. And I said, but you know what? Every day is going to get better. Is it better than what you could do yesterday? Then you're doing big things. I love that advice.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Let me ask you this. Across all sports, the transfer portal is a huge buzz. I am a former coach's wife in the basketball field, and now my husband's currently working as a TV analyst. But all I heard about was the transfer portal and all of this stuff. Would you mind sharing with us what it was like going through a transfer with your own daughter?
Sure. I think the transfer portal, just like all the changes that we have in sports, can be great and can be bad too. The whole process can be complicated. The first thing, if you're even considering using the transfer portal, that you need to do is go talk to the compliance officer at your university. That's the number one contact, and they can give you all the rules and regulations. And there are more rules and regulations than you think there are. For example, you have to be in the transfer portal before a certain date, and it's different for every sport. And if you're not, you can't just transfer the following year. Once you've talked to the compliance officer, you found out the date. If you've decided to go into the transfer portal, you need to obviously speak to your head coach very quickly, because they're going to be notified within 24 hours. You also need to recognize that if you have been offered a renewed scholarship for the following year and you haven't decided what you're going to do, once you enter the transfer portal, they do not have to provide you with that scholarship. So you could lose your current scholarship had a chance for another scholarship. That being said, our personal experience was actually more academic related than anything else. Rachel had graduated with a MIS degree in business data analytics, and the MIS master's at the University of Georgia required that you had worked full-time for a year to even apply. So she wasn't even allowed to apply there. So she was applying for other masters at the University of Georgia, but she would not hear back until after the portal closed. She actually talked to her head coach first and told her that she's going to put her name into the transfer portal until she gets her schooling situation figured out. And then she talked to the compliance officer. Then when she went through the summer and she had talked to some other colleges and decided to not transfer to those schools because transferring for 1 year is hard. All new friends, new place, new everything. That wasn't really something she was thinking she was interested in unless it had the ideal degree for her. And when she got the option at University of Florida, they have a master's ISOM in business data analytics. Jenny offered her to come, but she didn't accept until she applied and got accepted into grad school because that was her priority. Then getting into that program was actually a dream program for her. And it was the only place that she had been contacted by that had that specific master's program for her. I would advise everyone who's transferring to have an open, honest communication with their coach. She communicated regularly with her head coach about what was going on. And when she left the university, everyone that knew her was so excited for her getting into this specific graduate degree. I always encourage student athletes to, if there's no pro sports going on afterwards, then academics should be just huge in your decision-making process. It went pretty smoothly, and the compliance officers and the professors at Georgia were very, very helpful with those at Florida.
Thank you for explaining that, because I think the misconception sometimes is that anytime an athlete enters the transfer portal, that person maybe is unhappy with the university that they're at, or that there's this idea that maybe they're frustrated or they're not putting in enough work and they're not making lineups, so they're leaving out of just frustration and being unhappy. And explaining it that way so that people can say, just because someone enters the portal doesn't necessarily mean they're unhappy. It could mean so much more. It could be an academic decision. It could be a program decision. Maybe they change their major and it's not at that university they're currently at. Or like you said, scholarships can change. I appreciate you explaining it.
Most people technically wouldn't understand the difference, but the master's program that she was going to have to do alternatively at University of Georgia was business and technology, and it's way more IT-like than straight up business data analytics, data science. And I know that sounds just this much different, but to Rachel, it's this much different. It was huge, and it's just such a blessing for her to having got into this master's program.
It sounds like it was just the absolute perfect fit for her. And terrific that she had constant communication with her head coach and they knew where she was going. She wasn't hiding anything. She wasn't going behind anybody's back. She was just looking out for what worked for her and her shift in priorities at that time.
Because she had actually gone ahead and retired. Rachel had looked at other programs and decided those were not even as good as the one that she had at Georgia. And she had just decided that so much going on, she was just going to go ahead and retire because at Georgia, if you graduated in 4 years as a student athlete, you entered into what's called the Georgia Way. They would pay for your master's program with or without being an athlete. But getting into this program was a better program for her. And the way to pay for that was through gymnastics.
Let's talk a little bit about team spirit. You love to cheer your daughters on at meets. What do you enjoy most about being able to support your daughter's athletic teams and why?
I guess I love college gymnastics so much because we can be loud, dress loud, show our support for them very visually, verbally. Whereas in the elite world, we just sat in the stands and were very quiet. Barely clap. It's just a very different world. I'm pretty outgoing, so I like to express that. I liked it when they were both at different SEC schools and I did the split shirts, and I liked having them together. And whenever they competed, Florida, Georgia had dual meet. If it was at Florida, I wore Florida with Georgia accessories. If it was at Georgia, I wore Georgia with Florida accessories. And then if it was SECs, I did split shirt, just to be respectful of sitting in the parent section and not wearing another university's colors. I just enjoyed all of that. It was fun. It is fun.
I'm glad you enjoy it so much, and it shows. You seem to be having a great time out there, and we always appreciate having your spirit and excitement around us.
I bring
the boom box,
the speaker, whatever they call it now.
Got all the flags.
I'm playing.
The question is, what music are you playing on that boombox? Is it music we love, or is it music the kids love these
it's Florida
days?
Gator music. It's a whole playlist of just Florida Gator music.
Oh, fun.
You were telling me the other day about a group that you volunteer together with your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it really cool that you're also able to carve out time for volunteerism. How important is volunteering for your family and why?
It's very important. It's National Charity League, and it's a mother-daughter organization that starts in 6th grade and goes all the way through 12th grade. It's philanthropy, league events, and then leadership events. So it teaches the kids how to run a board meeting, and you'll have the TikTokers or the kids. Someone will be a president, someone will be a historian. So they're learning all that from 6th grade on. They organize several events. And on the other side, there's philanthropies, volunteering at hospitals, at a volunteer desk where you're just giving instructions to people, animal shelters. One of my absolute favorite is Feed the City, where we'll meet at a restaurant in the morning before it opens for lunch, and everyone brings bread, meat, cheese, little orange cuties, and some other side. And we'll make the sandwiches and put them together in lunch bags. And then Uber donates taking them downtown, and they pass them out, and it's all done by that afternoon. So by 2:00, everything that you have made is in the hands of those that need it. There's no overhead to the organization because each restaurant volunteers for you to get this done. I've been at Feed the City events where they've made 2,000 to 3,000 lunches for the homeless and the needy in one morning. It's really cool to be part of something that you're going to do and someone's going to get that day. And just having Kaylee, my youngest daughter, listen to someone else speak about the needs and giving stories about the needs of others that live 5 miles from our house. That's game changing for a kid. So I enjoy it.
Definitely eye-opening. I wish there was one of those leagues near us. When you mentioned it, I looked up. They're not really in Michigan, and they're not in Ohio, where I grew up. Yeah.
Because we're nationwide.
It's a great idea. Yeah. Love it. I'm glad that you guys have been able to do that together.
Fantastic.
And I'm sure creating memories. If you have a group and the kids are together from 6th grade on, they hold each other accountable. They experience things together. They create memories, all for the good of other people. Yeah. That's neat. I like it.
Thank you.
Do you have any final words of advice for moms of athletes?
I think it would be similar to what I've said. Celebrate the small victories. Enjoy the current moment. Don't make the mistake of looking too far ahead. I've done that myself a lot. And so I try to tell parents that all the time. Don't look too far ahead. When you're in the moment of something, it's so easy to just get caught up in what's coming next. That very much happened to me at the 2016 National Team Championships. I don't even remember the championships. I honestly don't. I was so focused on 2 weeks from then was the Olympic trials. I was already making arrangements and everything. And Alyssa finished in the top 6 or 7. She did some amazing things at that meet, and I can't remember it. And it was the last thing she did in elite. It was it. But I was so focused on moving on. So I guess if I could tell anyone that, it's celebrate the small victories. Don't look too far ahead. And make sure you take care of yourself as a mom. If you don't take care of you, you think you can, because I do this all the time. You think you can still be perfect for them, but you're not as good as you could be.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Definitely words to live by. And we can all appreciate that advice to celebrate the small victories and take time for yourself and just be present in the moment. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yes. Thank you for sharing all of this wonderful advice and insight. We've just got to give ourselves grace. We all try to stay in the moment, but it's nice to always have a reminder and just be so appreciative of the present and where we're all at. Jarol, how can people keep up with you? Do you have any social media or websites that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. I mean, I have my professional website, which is www.associatestherapy.com, and that has the listing of our Facebook, our Instagram, everything that we have for our clinic. And then, of course, I have my own Facebook and Instagram that's just under my name, Jarol Baumann.
Terrific. Thank you so much for sharing us today. You've been fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It was good meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so glad you've joined us today. Thank you for listening. Upcoming episodes and show info can all be found at sportsmomrapport.com. If you've enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend. We'd love to hear from you, so please reach out to us with any comments or if you or someone you know would like to share their story and connect with us.